Heroes Forge, a Heroes of the Storm podcast.
Welcome, Forgers, to episode 11 of Heroes Forge, a community-driven podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm your host, Jeff Reynolds, and I always am joined by the awesome, incredibly amazing co-host of the show, Kristen Ashton. Hi, Kristen.
Hey, Jeff. How are you today?
I'm good. That was energy-filled. I'm feeling a ton of energy after hearing about some of these announcements in the Heroes of the Storm community this week.
Breaking the game is what's happening. And not just Heroes either, right? Lots of other games, too.
Lots of games are out there that are really fun, and one that throws me way back is that Diablo 2 got a patch.
What are they thinking except how to be more awesome to the community?
Oh, Diablo 2 got a patch, and of course I saw all these tweets, and I was feeling the same exact thing. I was like, I need to get back on that. I need to get back on Diablo 2 right now.
Yep, pull out my warrior wizard and her staff of destruction.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that on the Dark Wanderer episode. That's right. Her staff of destruction. Oh, gotta play some Necromancer.
Yes.
Oh, man, I was so happy that they patched it. And that just, I mean, it shows people are still playing it.
Yeah, and it shows that they listen to the community, too. That Blizzard itself is still paying attention to the fact that there are people playing games, 16 years ago?
16 years!
Yes!
It's crazy.
Old!
Oh, man. And then just as they're announcing that they're going to patch Diablo 2, or that they did patch it, they're also announcing brand new content for a lot of their games. Did you catch the Hearthstone announcement?
The Wrath of the Old Gods?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it looks so cool. And the first thing I thought of when I was watching that is like, what new characters or characters that are being brought into Hearthstone for the first time could we forge on Heroes Forge?
I think we could do Cthulhu, but we might have to make sanity rolls just to make sure.
Yeah, exactly. Because it would be insane.
It wouldn't be safe, yeah.
It would not be safe. And maybe we just label it like that, like Cthulhu. This is probably not a great idea. or like Cthulhu. We know it's OP. Or something like that. But yeah, that expansion looks cool, and there's been a lot of buzz around the Hearthstone community regarding that expansion, you know, how it's gonna affect the game. And of course they're getting 2 new game modes over there for Hearthstone. And so, I mean, Hearthstone is crazy evolving. They're patching Diablo 2. And what does Heroes of the Storm get? We get Asmodunk.
Yes, we do. I think, and keep in mind, Asmodunk trailer released the same day that the new Captain America trailer released. So it was a great morning. But Asmodunk cracks me up because he jumps and he does a shot.
Yeah,
I think
he jumps
back to base.
All of his little legs. I mean, they're probably giant legs, but they all jump at the same time and shoot the jump shot.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't he have those little sweatbands on his wings?
Yeah, he's got a whole bunch of swag, a whole bunch of like basketball swag, and yeah, all the little minions are fun, and like, man. If anybody, I mean, there are some silly, fun skins in this game, and this definitely adds to it.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it detracts from the fact that this game isn't supposed to be as serious as many people tend to take it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to bring up. I mean, last night when we did the Bronze League Blitz, which is what I ended up calling it, when we played some Bronze League on the stream here on Heroes Forge, it was just that kind of feeling too. It's like, you know, some people take it super seriously, and then it turns out to not be a game in the end because you're just not having fun at all.
Yeah.
So things like Asmodunk keep it lighthearted, and I definitely think with all the banter and everything in the game that the game also doesn't take itself too seriously either.
Certainly not at all. And I mean, especially with characters, not with Asmodunk with his skin, but I mean, Brightwing, Lily, Murky,
Yeah.
Stitches. I mean, 2 characters that poo on people as they run around being disgusting. I mean, it's not supposed to be serious. However, I can understand why it would get serious with this Heroes of the Dorm coming up.
Oh, I am so excited for Heroes of the Dorm. We were chatting a little bit offline, and I mean, I wish I lived where the tournament was taking place.
Yes, luckily it worked out this year. It's taking place in Seattle, so I am going to Heroes of the Dorm. And if that stadium fills up, I will stand outside in one of the local sports bars and be cheering.
No, you'll be able to make it in. I mean, if that stadium fills up, there's another news story going on. Yes. I'll tell you that. I mean, that's a massive, it's a football stadium, right?
Yeah, it's a football stadium.
Oh my God! Where they stack it full of people for like the most revenue generating sport in U.S. history. They're gonna use it for Heroes of the Dorm. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, and it proves too that it's not dying, because otherwise they wouldn't even be able to afford such a venue.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really curious on what they're gonna do with the staging area and the whole thing, because I mean, in football stadiums, you can sit pretty far away and have to be able to see the action. So there's going to be Jumbotron action. There's got to be some crazy cool stuff going on.
I'm hoping for pyrotechnics.
Oh, I want pyro. I want water cannons.
Yep.
I want confetti.
T-shirt
I want
cannons.
snow.
Oh,
I want
everything.
all of those things at the same time. Yeah, Heroes of the Dorm. We got to do our brackets. I just finished my bracket up, and I'm thinking, Kristen, maybe we should post them on the website and let people follow along on our brackets and let people see who we picked to win the whole deal.
100%.
Yeah, let's do that. So look for those up on the website sometime this week, maybe early next week. We'll throw them up on the website so you guys can follow along. And make sure that you do your Heroes of the Dorm bracket too. There's some chance to win some really cool prizes. And it's really fun to just kind of wing it and pick some teams that you may not know and pick some sleeper picks that might come in and just take out the highest ranked teams. And all the info's on that website, heroesofthedorm.com. And, I mean, yeah, you wanted to talk a little bit about Rhaegar, Kristen. What do you think?
Oh, yes. I wanted to mention, it's big news, right? Rhaegar's ancestral heal can no longer heal Rhaegar himself. It's been flooding the communication circuit today.
Yeah.
And so many people are upset about it. However, I like it because it reinvigorates the character's play style. No longer do you get on to play Rhaegar and follow into the same old habits. You have to learn something new.
Yeah. I think, I definitely thought it was super, super, super OP. A lot of the stuff that Rhaegar was going on, what I was experiencing. The fact that he can't heal himself with ancestral healing is, I mean, would that go with the lore a little better? I mean, I don't really know a whole lot of Rhaegar lore, but I'm picturing just like this whole ceremonial thing where ancestral healing comes into place, and maybe that does fit better, maybe it doesn't, but I like it too, because you're right, and I like all the changes that are coming down the pipe for like Vala or those other characters that they're doing little tweaks on so that they can get a little bit of different hero diversity when people are playing, different builds that people start using, and I think they're starting to tweak things in the right direction. But what happens is they make it tough for or the community makes it tough for Blizzard, because Blizzard wants this diverse game, but the community gets stuck on one build, and now somebody's going to go in and play Rhaegar and just completely drop it because, they can't do ancestral healing on themselves anymore, right?
Exactly. But, I mean, that's just human nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't like change. Change is scary. Change can sometimes mean very bad things. But if you're open-minded about it, I think it can be a really, really cool way to, like I say, reinvigorate the character itself.
Yeah, because we've seen Rhaegar go up and down and up and down and up and down.
Just like every other hero.
Yeah, so I think this is good. I think it's I'm on the same page. So tell me about BioShock. Did you get to beat it?
Nope, not yet. Getting back to it tomorrow morning, but I did do that putt-putt golf game. And by golf game, I mean you take down the leader of Rapture with a golf club. Mm-hmm. But now I'm on the quest where I get to turn myself into a big daddy, so I'm
Great.
Very happy.
That's what I remember of the ending. So, good. Cool. Yeah, I played a whole lot of Heroes this week. I played a whole lot of The Division. I think I logged like close to 8 hours on The Division already.
Really?
Have you played The Division?
No, sorry, I kept interrupting you. What is The Division?
The Division is a Tom Clancy third-person shooter RPG game. It kind of has the feel of it's hard to describe, but if you ever played Destiny, it kind of has that feel where, you're leveling your character up and each portion of your character's gear is able to be upgraded to different levels, and each part of the gear has different, attachments you can attach to your weapons, and you can go and you can patrol this hazard zone where you go in with friends and you kind of can enter into instances or dungeons or quests inside of a rundown, exposed by disease-ridden Manhattan, and you're kind of going through, and it takes place in modern times. It's fun, it's good, and a lot of streamers on Twitch are playing it, so I decided to pick it up and play, and it's fun. It's definitely more fun with friends. It's one of those games.
Gotcha. And I've always heard great things about Tom Clancy games.
Yeah, I played Tom Clancy games while I was growing up. The Ghost Recons, all those games, Splinter Cell, those games growing up. So I was in the gaming meta at that time, and those were the games that were definitely rocking it. But one of the games that's rocking it now is Heroes of the Storm, right?
Oh, of course, as we can see. The Heroes of the Dorm just exploding out of nowhere.
And Asmodunk coming right with it. I think that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and let's forge.
Let's forge.
All right, everybody, we are forging this week, and if this is your first time tuning into Heroes Forge, welcome to the show. We love that you guys are here. We hope that you're in Twitch chat. We record every Sunday live at 7 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/HeroesForge, and what we do is we take a character from the Blizzard universe and imagine what that character would look like if it was in Heroes of the Storm. Kristen builds a kit for this character, I build a kit, and then we just chat about it and see what cool ideas we can come up with. So to start this episode out, I think it's no surprise to anyone, but Kristen, why don't you tell us, who are we forging this week?
This week, Jeff, we are forging Bastion from Overwatch.
Bastion from Overwatch, one of the heroes, or I guess we call them heroes in Overwatch as well, that I have played a bunch of. Have you played Bastion in the game?
He's my core hero.
Oh,
I won't lie. I auto-select Bastion every time.
Oh yeah, Bastion is killer, especially on the defense, which we'll get into a little bit more as we chat. But Kristen, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown about Bastion and what his place is in the Blizzard universe?
Certainly. In the beginning, the Omniomes, AI robots designed by man, helped man. However, soon the slaves became the masters. Dubbed the Omnic Crisis, the robots rose up against their human overlords, mass-producing armies of machines comprised of mostly Bastion units, designed for one thing and one thing only: war. While winning a global victory in the beginning, Team Overwatch was eventually able to muster up the power to overtake the starters of the war once and for all. Though human-robot relations remain tepid at best, there remains some hope in one of the few surviving Omnic military units, Bastion. Originally created for unification purposes, the Bastion units were repurposed to become destroyers of humanity. While most of Bastion's brothers were destroyed following Overwatch's success, the lone robot remained unmoving, forgotten on an old battlefield as nature retook its circuits. In time, Bastion reactivated with its lust for combat all but erased. Now he explores the world, seeking out nature and all of its wonders. However, Bastion remains wary of crowded areas, as any hint of a threat sends him back into combat mode, ready to kill.
So good. Yeah, and I was actually really taken aback by the whole story of Bastion, because in the game I figure him as such like a lighthearted, R2-D2 kind of feel, in the game.
Exactly, and he's got his little bird companion that he doots at, and he sings little songs when he transforms.
Yeah, and yeah, or whatever, and that feels so lighthearted, and I guess that's where this specific Bastion unit's story is now, but on your history of the intro of Bastion, it was at a completely different place during the crisis.
Mm-hmm. Entirely different. I mean, there's no telling how many people Bastion killed.
Right, or how many more? I mean, ready to kill, combat mode, ready to kill.
Exactly. The fact that he has to avoid people because any threat of danger immediately sets him off, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, and I'm sure the other heroes in the game probably take advantage of that if it was, throw him out there and see how many he can take out.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it's pretty awesome to take out enemy heroes as Bastion in Overwatch. It's a really cool experience.
When you find your little mouse hole and you get to sit there as the tank, oh, how joyful it is, and just 5 kill streaks unending, basically.
That's right, and then you get the play of the game and you're like, I can play this game!
Exactly, but then of course it shows your view and you're not moving, you're just kind of changing the aiming.
Exactly, yep. So that's a ton of fun. Let's go ahead and get started on our builds here. The first thing that we do is we'll go back and forth a little banter about Bastion, and we'll start with first the role classification that we had in mind for this hero in Heroes of the Storm. And I'll start this week. Well, I think Bastion, I'm going to go down the road of Specialist.
Oh, another specialist. Huh?
Another specialist, yeah. And the real challenge for me building this, I had a real challenge building this because I wanted Bastion to be different than Sergeant Hammer.
Yes.
That was my main goal here, as I'm like, it's so very similar in a lot of respects. And some people even believe that you could put a Bastion skin on top of Sergeant Hammer and just go from there. You could just be like, okay, new legendary skin for Sergeant Hammer, it's Bastion, and then it goes out. But I'm like, no. We gotta keep creating here. We gotta build something for Bastion. So I'm going down the specialist route, and I'm gonna try to be a little different. But Kristen, which route were you going?
I'm going with my favorite, assassin.
Ooh.
He kills. I mean, at least I kill people with him when I'm in Overwatch.
Which would make you an assassin.
Exactly.
Ding! Done. I think that was an A+ selection for a role on that one. So we got an assassin build on Kristen's end and a specialist build on mine. So let's start with Kristen. And what would the trait for the assassin version of Bastion be?
I'm calling mine Past Fears. As a robot capable of synthesizing incredible amounts of information, Bastion's battle skills only make him stronger, giving him more data that he quickly turns into applicable knowledge. All bonuses he gains from this are lost on death.
Oh.
And we'll get into the bonuses later.
Yeah, I was going to ask about bonuses, but I won't jump the gun. I'll wait. So very cool. So you're figuring that he's going to gain stacks of things that are basically going to buff him.
Correct.
So I just completely repeated exactly what you just said.
But in a different term, because everyone understands, sometimes you got to spin it a little differently.
Yes, and that one we spun just a little differently. The trait for the specialist version of Bastion over my end, I'm calling Reconfigure. So, during the Omnic Crisis, Bastion units were known for their unique ability to reconfigure into different assault and defense modes. This reconfiguration ability not only allowed the units to gain the upper hand when used properly, but also kept the enemy on their toes. In Heroes of the Storm, Bastion would be just that. A quickly reconfiguring specialist that would be able to change modes quickly to help eliminate the enemy team. Bastion's trait Reconfigure allows him to quickly switch configurations without a cooldown. Each configuration has a set of 2 basic abilities. This gives him unbelievable value on the battlefield.
Nice. I think that fits Specialist perfectly.
Yeah, because I wanted to kind of encompass all of these different thoughts that I had, which we'll get into as we continue down.
Of course, I want to ask you, of course, what types of things you'd be able to transform into, but I like that you went with that, and it sounds like you're going to go broader than just the tank.
Yeah, I might have created my own little bit of lore for this, which is part of the fun of Heroes Forge. So the next thing we talk about is the hero's mount, or what their mounting ability would be. I actually said that Bastion could ride a normal mount, which is kind of strange thought, but he would only be able to ride it when he was in what's called his recon configuration. Attempting to mount while in a different configuration would automatically reconfigure Bastion back to recon. So what were you thinking? Did you think he would have a mounted ability, or what were you thinking?
I was thinking, I like the tank form. I love driving around as the tank, so I'd want to keep that. But also, I thought it would be fun to have carrier companions, because he's found peace in nature. So the birds Bastion have befriend him, descend from the sky, and transport him to his next location.
So great. And that's the lore. I mean, when you see these pictures of Bastion, you know, if you just Google it, Bastion, the first thing you see is him with the little, you know, yellow bird on his hand or on his shoulder, and he's just like really into the nature part of it, which I don't completely understand quite yet from the lore. I guess he just is really into it. Like, that's where he lived for so long, deactivated, and now he just... Is that what it is?
He's become one with nature.
Yep. He is part of nature, which is why that origin skin for Bastion is really cool. If you pre-order the game, you can get that origin skin where he's got like moss all over him and he looks like he's been abandoned.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks really cool. And that mounting ability would be really cool. I'm guessing it would take a good amount of feathery friends to fly him around.
It may look like your screen's been taken over by birds. I'm assuming Bastion does not weigh a small amount, especially when you jump as Bastion. That land that they have is heavy. Yeah.
It's super heavy as it just comes down. I think that's funny. Lots of feathery friends. So those are our mounting abilities. So let's get into it. Let's talk about basic abilities. And I'll talk about mine first, which is going to land on Q. And it's the first configuration I had for the specialist idea. And the configuration is called Recon, which is directly from Overwatch. So one of Bastion's strengths is his mobility. The Bastion units were feared in the Omnic Crisis because not only of their power in battle, but also their ability to reposition while still being a threat to the enemy. While in recon mode, Bastion wields a standard-issued semi-automatic rifle that he uses for his basic attacks. He can fire a single shot from his rifle as his basic attack. And it also automatically has the ability assigned to the 1 key when in this configuration. So you press Q and it'll transform Bastion into into recon configuration, which is what you picture him seeing as he's standing and moving. And he's got his weapon that can fire off of his auto attacks, which is a single shot. But then when you're in this configuration, something is automatically assigned to 1, which is called burst fire.
Yeah.
Bastion can press 1 while in recon mode to fire a burst of bullets toward the enemy. This burst does increased damage to minions and can only be cast after its respective cooldown.
I like that. I like that it has a special attack with these designated reconfiguration that you've given it.
Yeah, so it's going to completely change the character's tune into the standing position, and then you're just going to be able to do basic attacks and 1, which is burst fire. So you're probably going to be trolling that 1 key.
Oh my goodness, just put a little weight on the 1 key so it keeps going. Spam the 1. Spam the
That's
Q
right.
is now last year's meta. Spam 1.
Spam 1 is next year's meta. Kristen, what were you thinking for Q for the assassin version of Bastion?
For Q, we're doing a basic do-do-do. And that's what it's called, do-do-do. I just love his noises. I really want to find a way to incorporate them into the game.
Oh, they're great.
Bastion fires off 3 high-powered shots in a line that do extra damage to anything in their way. They are accompanied by his trademark doot noises. Now, of course, any enemy hit with this now takes bonus damage when hit by Bastion, calling back to his trait.
Oh, that's the bonus.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Very cool. There's a super strategy in that. I mean, I can kind of see... Oh, I can't wait to see what else happens with it, because I can already envision some great combos coming in for other heroes that Bastion would combo well just with that Q ability, you know?
Oh, yeah. And the extra damage would be so nice. And it would be really, really great, too, as a teaching mechanic, because you'd have to learn to pay attention to who's hit you and what their attacks look like so that you can avoid it in the future, especially if you're then vulnerable to that specific
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to watch out for that. So, oh, man, I want to ask questions, but I don't want to ask questions because I think we're going to get more into it. I think it's going to be great.
Save all questions to the end.
Parking lot. We're going to parking lot these questions. I'm going to write them on my pad right here, and then I'll get back to them. So what were you thinking for his W? Just rolling right along. So that's his Q and the Assassin's W.
The W I called Spin Me Right Round. Bastion bunkers down and spins rapidly as he releases a flurry of shots that deal piercing rounds to all enemies in range, ignoring shields. All enemies hit with this are now marked with a debuff only Bastion can use. If Bastion deals damage to a hero with this debuff, he gains a double damage bonus against them.
Oh, so this is stacking up. Oh, that is great. Wow, that defines Assassin so well, right?
It does, and I love Vala's Strafe. Who doesn't love that? But imagine if that did more than imagine if it was so scary you couldn't stand in it. Because right now, if you have a level lead, you can probably tank it. You don't really have to run backward because your healer's gotcha.
Yeah, but if you couldn't, see, and that's different too. I mean, I like that because it's got a different strength to it. Oh, that's really neat. On my end for Specialist, I was thinking the second configuration would be called Configuration Sentry, which is also familiar to the players that have played Overwatch. And Bastion units are very durable and strong, as well as a semi-auto rifle that Bastion carries. He also has a fully automatic chain gun mounted on his back.
Oh dear.
This chain gun fires very rapidly and does increase damage to enemy heroes, but the barrels can overheat, causing the gun to malfunction. Because of the weight and sheer mass of this weapon, Bastion is required to set up in one position to use it. Because of his trait, he is able to switch in and out of this position quickly, changing strategies quickly and efficiently on the fly. When in this configuration, Bastion also has an ability assigned to his 1 key, which is called Switch Barrels. When 1 is activated, while Bastion's in this formation, it takes a second to change the barrels in his chain gun, cooling them down and allowing him to continue firing. So it's basically a reload mechanic for this minigun.
Great. Okay, so I'm trying to envision this. Oh my goodness, I have to. That's wonderful. Okay, so it's a reload mechanic so that you don't overheat.
Yeah, so when you overheat, like if you imagine, any of those, World War II things that you've seen where they wait for them to change the barrels or switch out magazines, like when they're trying to take a post or something, I imagine it to be just like that. So he's able to fire his chain gun, and in Overwatch, he's able to fire until he needs to reload, right? So it just goes, and then he's got to reload. So I thought we would kind of incorporate that with, you're just going to see the barrel of this chain gun get yellow, 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 orange, orange, red, and then it'll just slowly slow down. Like,
gotcha.
Then you have to hit 1, and it'll take a second, and you'll be able to switch your barrels back over. Trying not to make it too OP and different than Sergeant Hammer's long bombarding shot.
Oh, that just go forever. Oh,
unless you get taken out.
Yes, of course. Oh, dear. Now, can you switch these barrels before they overheat?
I didn't think that far. Maybe you can. Like, maybe you can get that good that you can just switch them before. Maybe that might be too overpowered. I was thinking that in order to keep it less OP, you'd have to let them overheat. But I guess if you're battle-hardened, trained veteran of battle, then you would know to switch them before they did, right?
Certainly. And you really want to pay attention to the colors, but at the same time, too, you want to make sure you don't switch them too quickly, because then you're spending more time not firing than you are firing. And that can be extremely detrimental to a hero.
Yeah, and a little bit offline we were chatting about how, Tracer from Overwatch got leaked because she's going to be part of Heroes of the Storm when Overwatch launches. And she got leaked, and some of the rumors and leaked things that are said about her, which we don't know are 100% true quite yet, but it's pretty close, is that she will have some sort of reload mechanic, which is going to be weird for us, right?
Oh my, yeah, and the fact that she can fire as she moves, I have a feeling she's going to become many, many people's first assassin, or favorite assassin.
Yeah, that's great, and I hope they get it right, and I think they will. I really think that they're taking the time with Tracer. We first saw Tracer announced at BlizzCon, and it was just a model of what she would look like in the game. Nothing else. This tiny little cutscene, but nothing crazy. So I think that they're going to get it right because they've had some good amount of time.
Yeah, and I have no doubt that they will, because there hasn't been a hero yet that's released, and I've gone, that doesn't feel like the hero I know.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Some of them could be tweaked a little bit, and they're getting to those tweaks, which makes the game even better. But I totally agree. The next configuration that lands on the E key for my specialist build is called Configuration Tank. This one's for you, Kristen. Configuration Tank. Bastion has a configuration for every situation on the battlefield. The tank configuration is the best configuration to be in while attempting to siege the enemy team's walls and forts. While in the tank configuration, Bastion is able to move, but with drastically reduced movement speed. His large tank cannon does additional damage to enemy structures, making it the perfect configuration for sieging. However, Bastion's armor is exposed while he's in this configuration and is vulnerable to taking damage, making him a perfect target for the enemy team. But Bastion, while in the tank configuration, also changes his automatic 1 ability, which is now called Tank Trap. Bastion has the ability to place small tank traps in a location that impedes the movement of all heroes. This trap has hit points and can be quickly destroyed, but can give Bastion the time he needs to reconfigure to a mode that would be appropriate to face the oncoming situation.
Wow, he's a busy specialist, isn't he? I love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's playing perfectly to how you envisioned his ability to reconfigure himself.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's a lot. And, as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, my gosh, I have to take a breath because this is too much. I'm thinking, wow, what does Sergeant Hammer do? She lays some mines down. I need to not overthink this stuff. And maybe, if I was to go back and rebuild this, I would change some things to make it a little more simple. I was just kind of word vomiting my ideas out to try to make him different. So what were your thoughts on his E?
On his E, I was thinking, woo-woo. Where Bastion activates his self-heal over time ability, repairing a percentage of his health. It adds a small shield if one is not already active. The more times he does this, the better his heal becomes.
Ooh, another stacking, right? And when does that stack end? Or does it?
That's a good question. 5 is always a good solid number, I think, but I think if it was balanced, you could probably push it up to 10 if you wanted.
Yeah, and then if he dies...
Correct, it's lost.
Oh, wow. Oh, you got to really have a good healer with your version of Bastion to keep you alive, because you are the most powerful that you can be if you just live for a long time.
Exactly, and the fact that he's ranged makes it that little bit easier.
Oh, you got to pull out the Illidan's. You got to pull out even Zool, any sort of CC to just lock your Bastion down.
And dive him.
Oh, and dive in, right? Oh, the stacks. I don't know this. Maybe you do. Is there something in Heroes that shows you how many stacks an enemy player that's attacking you has?
I want to say no.
I want to say no too. I don't know, and maybe chat can help us out if there was something like that. But for something like Bastion, I feel like you would have to implement that somehow so that the enemy team could see, wow, he's like getting really buffed up or something, or maybe you could see how many regeneration orbs Leoric has or whatever, and maybe that would change your strategy.
That's a good point. And of course it would grow their desperateness to take Bastion down if it's a good Bastion, which could lead to some very interesting and desperate fights.
Uh-huh. But maybe that's cheating. Like maybe the fact that they don't know how powerful Bastion is what they're going for. Like, we don't know how powerful or how quickly Leoric's going to respawn. We don't want to tell them how many regeneration globes they've created or something like that.
Exactly, because then you have to be careful no matter what. And it's like the cooldowns as well. You don't know really how long the cooldowns are right there in the heat of battle. You just kind of have to mentally have a count on it.
Yeah.
And hope for the best.
I guess that's part of the skill, too. I mean, part of the skill coming up. And Chad is saying that the orbs are tracked in the replay files. Hotslug shows you how many orbs you got. So orbs are shown. That's great. That's good to know. But for this, I mean, maybe I can see how it would go both ways, right?
Yeah, certainly. But I don't know if I'd like the information shown. I like to keep everything at a minimum because that really allows people to play more imaginative because people don't know all of their stats. Therefore,
Right.
you can trick a hero by acting one way in your movements and then turning around and blowing them up because you've lured them into a better fighting position and they chased. So you can then take advantage of the fact that they were impatient.
Yeah, that's a really good argument. That's good. I like that. Yeah, it's crazy. There's just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. My brain is just like brainstorming on all these cool things. And speaking of crazy things, before we get into the next really awesome, cool part of the show, which is, you know, my favorite. I think it's your favorite too, Christian.
I would
agree. Kristen. But what we're going to do is we're going to thank the people that have rated us on iTunes. So this is just a reminder that this show is recorded and it's also put onto iTunes. You can find the link to our iTunes podcast recording on our website, which is HeroesForge.club. And if you like the show, we would love for you to head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. That really helps the show grow and makes it so that other people can find us on iTunes and also throughout the Heroes of the Storm community. And we did get another 5-star rating, and we really want to thank Eric BDE for giving us a 5-star rating, and thank you for so much for the kind words. Make sure if you do leave a 5-star rating that you leave a little note so we can give you a shout out on the show, and thank you for helping support the show. And with that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into the heroics.
Heroic.
All right, you thought some of my other things were OP. This heroic is OP, but I like the concept, so maybe we can chat down how we could bring it back a little bit. So heroic ability number 1 is called Advanced Configuration Whirlwind. Bastion units have also been known to be equipped with additional equipment and weapons. When this heroic is selected, Bastion reconfigures into his sentry formation, but his weapon is replaced by 2 3-rocket heat-seeking rocket silos. 6 rockets total, firing at the enemy team in a range and not allowing their movement to impact whether the missile hits them or not. When the rockets are depleted, Bastion is returned to his recon configuration and is able to move freely. While in Whirlwind configuration, Bastion is vulnerable to enemy attacks, so it's just like the tank version. So I'm picturing this like you reconfigure into this advanced configuration and you have these missile silos on top that kind of work like the oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name of Kael'thas's ultimate, where it just follows you.
Pyroblast?
Pyroblast, that's right. Pyroblast, where these missiles, but they're going to come out real fast and they're not going to do as much damage as that, obviously. They're just going to shoot out like 6 missiles that just kind of fly around and then hit enemy targets that are in the area. You don't choose, it just happens. So I'm thinking of it like Zool's a ground stomp ultimate, but it always hits and there's no DOT.
Oh, none. It's just automatic damage.
Yeah, it just hits them for damage, because that's what you're going to sacrifice between those two ultimates. Like for Zul's, you're going to have the damage over time, but you have the chance of missing.
Yes. But for
that was
this
my
one,
OP heroic.
Gotcha. And then this one, you don't have a chance of missing at all.
No, it's gonna hit them. The missile is gonna hit the people that are in this area.
Now, is there a chance? I'm assuming that more than one missile can hit one person.
Sure, if there's only one person in the area and you have 6 missiles, so it's like maybe that's a delete. Maybe that's too powerful because
Insta-kill.
that might be insta kill. So maybe only one missile would come out then. I don't know.
Oh, but wouldn't that be amazing to see professionally done? Because then you'd have teams that would run into the blast radius because they'd want to protect their team members. It's like a few times when Karazim's been doing his, what is it, 6-sided, 7-sided strike?
7-sided, yeah.
7-sided strike, professional teams will run into the radius and help soak the damage to save a fellow team member.
Right, and I think that's the same thing with the Hyperion.
Yeah.
I think it attacks, whoever randomly inside of the Hyperion or something like that. And when you're inside of it, if there are more people, then you are attacked less.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So that was my idea. I just like the picture of these missile silos. I wanted it to be heroic. I wanted it to take into consideration, it's similar to the napalm strike, but different. So I don't know. I liked the image. It reminded me of when I played Warhammer 40,000, like the actual miniatures game where you paint. And one of the Space Marine units was actually a tank that had whirlwind cannons on the top.
Oh, no
or
way.
whirlwind rocket silos. And I was like, that'd be a really cool idea. So that was my idea for my first heroic. What is the Assassin's version?
The Assassin's version is Terror Tank, and Bastion transforms into a full tank complete with mounted movement speed, increased damage, and increased range. Any enemies killed in this form add a permanent buff to his base attack damage. And I also thought it would be really, really cute if he could jump as a tank, and when he jumped and fired, he got just a little more distance.
Oh, cool.
So if someone's trying to run away, you could just hop and take him out.
And it's so funny that you talk about that, because that is a thing in these first-person shooter games like Overwatch and Team Fortress 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
You watch these professional streamers and they're hopping. They're just constantly jumping because you're harder to hit if you're a moving target, jumping and crouching and jumping and jumping and running and jumping. And so I think that would have an Overwatch feel to it if you had the ability to just kind of jump out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it keeps with his happy nature.
Exactly.
And I love Bastion's character. I wanted to keep the cuteness of the hero in Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah, and that definitely with the mount and the the whole thing that you were talking about with the birds and everything. I think you are accomplishing that. I love it. But those stacks though are going to be deadly.
Absolutely, and that's the whole point. I love to play to the idea that Bastion has some latent, super deadly skills hidden within the memory banks, and of course, like the trait said, he can incorporate information very, very quickly into applicable knowledge, and just harken back to the days when he was a killer, cold-blooded, no blood,
That's right.
cold-oiled.
Cold-oiled, a cold-oiled killer, Bastion, with his bird mount.
He's tough. He's a toughie.
He's a tough dude. I like it. Speaking of tough dude, my second heroic is called Advanced Configuration Repair. This one's probably a little bit more practical. So because Bastion units are mechanical, they often have the ability to self-repair. When this heroic is selected, Bastion can reconfigure into a base, like a base-looking object, maybe like a box or something like that, that renders him he's unable to be attacked while he's inside of this base. So he is basically stasised, is what I called it. While in this stasis, he is repairing himself and is not able to be attacked by the enemy team. So it's like the Jaina crystal, but you're healing yourself when you're in it, which is what makes it heroic.
Gotcha. And then how long would it last? Would it last just as long or go a bit longer because it's heroic?
I'm figuring that it would last longer. Probably, the same. It would probably last longer, and you could repair in there maybe up to a certain percentage that you could go into, a different percentage. And so once you reach that maximum healing percentage, maybe it kicks you out.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. That would work really well, too, because, what is it in StarCraft? The units stop working on buildings as soon as the buildings are completed. So that would totally work to already established Blizzard lore.
Right. So that was my thought. Just another configuration. So a bunch of different configurations, and with this trait, you could just easily switch in and out of them just using your basic ability keys, which is a little different because you wouldn't be using abilities. You would be switching configurations and using your one as that configuration's ability. Mm-hmm. So high skill cap, maybe a little OP. What was your idea for your second heroic?
For this one, we're going tanks for the memories. And Bastion, Bastion flashes back to the time of the old war. He sees his brethren fall before him and feels the rush of power when humans once fell like insects before he and his comrades' mighty guns. Strewn across the map now are forgotten Bastion units. Bastion may use his repair spell to bring them to life, recreating the glorious army he once belonged to. All units move together as an impenetrable wall, dealing terrible ranged damage. However, these resurrected Bastion units' health are tiny as they are not fully restored. Enemy heroes that stumble upon an old Bastion unit may destroy it.
Winner. That's the winner. That is so cool because I'm envisioning the skeletal wall from Zool, but it can move.
Yes.
And it's charging.
Yes.
I mean, how fast are we talking? Are we talking like...
Not super fast. You don't want to make it too OP. I personally have always enjoyed the slow-crawling army. The slow-crawling, unstoppable army that in 3 days' time will be at the wall of the kingdom, and there's nothing you can do.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And I love the ability that you have to destroy them before they're activated.
Yes, I thought that would only be fair, right? Because Bastion has to find them, so why wouldn't enemy heroes be able to find these and just get rid of them before they even pose a threat?
Exactly. Oh, I love that. So cool. That's the winning ability, I think. That is such a cool idea, and it takes into the lore, and it builds into your assassin build. I think it's great. I mean, we've got some awesome stuff here. I think we can definitely say that these heroes were forged.
HeroesForge.
Oh, talk about HeroesForge. I mean, right here we have two completely different builds for a character that some think could just be a skin for a character that's already in the game. How cool is that? And it's inspiring to know that, those super creative minds, the people at Blizzard, are, they have a whole bunch of ideas and people over there that are just constantly thinking of these ideas. And if we can come up with this, what can they come up with? We had a specialist build. We had an assassin build. We had a ton of cool ideas for the specialist. We were talking about reconfiguring into different configurations that allow us to change into a tank, into a sentry mode. And on the assassin build, we're talking about, also doing all these cute little things where you're changing into high-powered, shots and doing these really, really awesome spin moves. And of course, the tanks for the memories, the second ultimate for Kristen's assassin build, is awesome and such a cool idea to have that moving army of Bastion, previously activated Bastion characters just moving towards the enemy fort. Just like, it's got a great feel. Great job, Kristen.
You as well, Jeff. I really, really like your... It feels like a faster mecha? A giant robot that can transition between forms really, really quickly. So maybe a faster Power Ranger Megazord.
Yeah. Megazord. That's what I was thinking. Definitely cool. Well, speaking of really cool off-the-wall things, the last thing that we talk about after we complete our heroes is a specialty skin or a hero skin that we think would be fun for these characters. Mine, for my build, would be a Wally skin for Bastion.
Perfect!
So that Bastion could be like the character Wally from the Disney Pixar film Wall-E. He would be complete with a roach tosser, like a cockroach tosser,
Yes.
and pea shooters. And Wall-E has a custom fire extinguisher that he would use as his quote-unquote chain gun that Bastion has. And when he transforms into a repair configuration, that's when he is joined and hugged by Eve, the other character from Wall-E.
Oh, that's adorable. That's 100% perfect.
That is my little side note of cute in there. I thought, because Bastion, you're right, does have that definite. It's so funny to have a chain gun that's cute, like a mounted killing machine.
Exactly, and you wonder too if people would fall prey to it more often because it doesn't look threatening. But in the reality, it's horrifying.
I completely agree. How about your specialty skin?
This one we're going with Robo White instead of Snow White. It's got a little paint job. The top is black as ebony. There's some white skin paint as white as snow, and then some red on the face where the lips would be, red as blood. And it's no surprising that all the woodland critters stand by his side, including a bird, fawn, and squirrel companion. Maybe you'll even find your prince. So depending on the color configuration, that would determine what woodland critter follows you around for the rest of the game.
Well, there is the Disney influence on both sides, I think.
Yeah, I think Disney has a hold over this.
Robo White. That is so funny. I need a picture of Robo White. I need a picture of all of these specialty skins that we do. We've had some really, really cool ones and some funny ones, and Robo White is hilarious. Love it. That's going to complete our build for this character. You can catch all of our previous shows and also the builds for the other characters that we've done. We've had some really fun times. You can catch all of those things over at our website, which is HeroesForge.club. Make sure you check out there. And you can also check us out on YouTube, which we're youtube.com/HeroesForge. And a link to that is also in the show notes on the website, so you can get over there. Also, if you'd like to follow us on Twitter. That's where we announce the heroes that we're forging every Sunday night. We announce it later in the week so you can get a little bit of a sneak preview on what hero we'll be forging. And next week's episode is really, really awesome because we're going to be doing what's called our Forger Spotlight. And Forger Spotlight is where we take a build that the community, you guys have sent us, and Kristen picks an ability from that build, I pick an ability from that build, and we build our own off of those community submitted ideas. You can send those ideas, if you have any, to our email address, which is contactheroesforge@gmail.com. That's contactheroesforge@gmail.com. Also, if you like the show, you have a chance to support us on Patreon. You can head on over to patreon.com/HeroesForge. We have some awesome Patreon goals. We talk about them every week, but I'll tell you again, we want to be forging battlegrounds on an extra episode. We want to be, getting into having more community-driven things that involve you guys, and you can check out all of those goals at our Patreon site, patreon.com/HeroesForge. So don't forget to rate us 5 stars on iTunes. And Kristen, where can people find you in the interwebs?
Well, on the interwebs, I'm known as Dream Destroyer, DRMDESTRYR, and I'm over at Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter under that same title. And also, if you'd like to follow my rippedforblizzcon.weebly.com blog, sharing the fitness.
Sharing fitness on Ripped for BlizzCon. And BlizzCon is coming. I'm checking those tweets every day to see if they're going to announce the dates for BlizzCon this year.
Yeah, it should be soon, and usually tickets go on sale about April.
Oh, man. Last year I had to buy tickets offhand. I couldn't buy them on thing. I tried to troll that website just over and up, but it didn't end up working.
They go fast, don't they?
They go real fast. If you haven't had a chance to go on there, make sure that you go to BlizzCon this year, which will probably be in the fall, I would guess, because it always is.
Yep,
so.
sometime around November.
Cool. All right, Kristen. Well, that's going to end the show for us this time. Tune in next week for episode 12, Sunday, twitch.tv/HeroesForge. From there, you can check out our second ever Forger Spotlight. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next week, and we'll see you in the real world.